Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and I've got a question for you. What do you think it would be like, and what would your life feel like to you if you no longer were afraid of pain? Would this feel useful? Is it even something you can imagine? I think for most people, I know this is true for me when I was younger, I couldn't imagine a world in which pain didn't scare me. Now, it's scary for us in really personal, unique ways. It depends on our history, our physical history, our sports history, how we use our bodies. And then it also depends on our emotional history, our relationships, and our experiences growing up, and how some of those experiences and perhaps some traumas have impacted us kind of physically at the subconscious level. But no matter what your life has looked like leading up to now, so no matter your childhood or your sporting, events and activities and those traumas or more emotional histories, you typically are going to fall into one of two camps. Because if you're like most people, when physical pain happens, you feel fear. That's usually what happens. And then because of the fear, it triggers one of usually two primary behaviors. Now, they can look different, like I said, depending on who you are, but they kind of fall into two camps. So I want to teach you how to lose your fear of pain in this video. It's not going to happen overnight. It is going to be a practice, and pretty much everything on this site, on this channel, Mobility Mastery, the YouTube channel, and also our blog, is really designed to help you lose your fear of pain. That's one of my primary goals. I want you to trust your body and actually welcome pain as a messenger so it no longer feels scary and you know what to do about it. But I want you to orient to this in a certain way from the perspective of knowing which camp you fall into. And then I want to talk about a third way. And this third way we're going to break up into 4 steps that you're going to take to completely lose your fear of pain. Now, before we dive in here, I just want to say that my perspective on fear itself is that we don't really conquer it or overcome it or something like that. It's not like I am going to, in 4 steps, help you banish fear completely from your life, or fear of pain, not all fear. So we're talking specifically about musculoskeletal pain here. So when I talk about a fear of pain, that's what I mean. I don't mean, necessarily all pain that we experience as humans. So knee pain, back pain, sciatica, soft tissue pain, fibromyalgia, stuff like that, I would kind of classify as pain. So either soft tissue pain or joint and nerve pain. So when pain happens, if you're like most people, like I said, it's going to trigger fear, maybe even below the level of your awareness. And then that fear is typically going to be like a tripwire that triggers behavior from you. And you might be more aware of these behaviors, but if, again, you're like most people and you haven't learned to work with these things actively, they still might be automated. They might not be your conscious choice. And so what I see most people doing when pain happens is option number one is you decide to conquer it. Now, this might look like enduring it, ignoring it, pretending it's not happening, right? So you continue whatever sports you're doing. You just want to, take the fastest route out of there and back to your life. So maybe you take a painkiller and then you're like back on the track. If you're running, you're back on the trail, you're back on the mountain bike, you're in your sport or whatever. But conquering it typically looks like some form of endurance. So enduring the pain. The pain is kind of still there, but maybe you're just getting really good at not hearing that signal. That was me for quite a while. It might mean, like I said, kind of numbing yourself to it and ignoring it. There's a bit of denial here, right? They're like, no, I'll be fine. This isn't happening. It's going to go away fast. Maybe if I just keep running, it'll go away. It'll resolve on its own. That type of mentality is generally camp 1. And then in camp 2, we've got those of us that, oops. So, you shrink your world. Now, these two things, trying to conquer it and endure it and shrinking your world, might go hand in hand. So I know for me, I actually use both tactics. So when conquering it didn't work, I shrunk part of my world. So for example, the main pain that I had was knee pain when I was a teenager, and I just kept running through it. So the knee pain started when I was like 16, 17. I would just keep running until it was unbearable, and then stop for like a short period of time, and then run again. And then when I couldn't ignore the pain anymore, which tends to happen, we can't ignore it forever, I shrunk my world. So I stopped running because my fear that I would not be able to hike anymore took over and led to this action of shrinking my world. So first I tried to conquer it. When that didn't work, I shrunk my world. And that ultimately doesn't work either. It might, mean that you're avoiding the pain, but you're not actually facing it or working with it in a holistic way that allows you freedom, right? The freedom to run if you want, the freedom to hike, the freedom to do whatever you want. So those are the two camps. So I'd love to know which camp you think you're in right now. If you want to play this game, play along, then comment below with if you're in camp 1 or camp 2. And then we have a third way, a middle way. So neither trying to conquer it and endure or avoid or deny, and neither shrinking your world. And this is something I've talked about a lot on the channel, and I'll keep coming back to because it's so important to me. And that's number 3. Get curious. So, when pain happens, what do? Do you decide you're going to conquer it? It will not get the better of you. You're going to do whatever you got to do to keep moving, or do you shrink your world? Or do you get curious? Now, if you're like most people, nobody taught you to get curious or the benefits of getting curious. So, why would you even know to do that, right? Like, I don't think it's something we're taught to do. We are taught to either put a Band-Aid on it, shoot it up with, cortisone, put a brace on it, or shrink your world, rest, ice, go into recovery for 4 months, take time off from your sport, that kind of thing. So when you get curious, these are the 4 kind of steps of getting curious that if you follow all the way through will lead eventually to you losing your fear of pain, meaning you have no fear of pain anymore. Now, again, just to clarify, I have no fear of pain anymore, but I'm talking soft tissue and injury type pain. I'm not talking, like I'm sure I would have a lot of fear if I, got in a catastrophic car accident, for example, and needed surgery, or had a really bad fall and needed surgery, or, was facing leg amputation for some reason. Like, there are other forms of pain that I am positive would scare me, but I'm not afraid of back pain, knee pain, tendonitis, bursitis, arthritis, any soft tissue pain, nerve pain, anything like that. So just to be clear, that's the type of pain I'm talking about here. So what are you going to do? These 4 steps. Number 1, be with your pain. So when you're actually with your pain, you're acknowledging it, you're naming it, you're willing to be with what is. So I'm a huge advocate of this whole concept of naming what is, not denying what is. You're not trying to conquer it, and you're not shrinking your world either. You're just going, I'm experiencing pain right now. Interesting. It feels, sharp and a little achy, and it feels like the size of a softball around my knee, and it gets worse when I hike, right? So you're kind of being with it, you're observing the data surrounding this experience of pain. And I would also say, included in this, it might mean being with some fear of pain too, and just naming that. But you're facing the pain, you're turning towards it and getting curious about it instead of letting the fear of that pain dictate your action. And number 2 for me is sorry, this is a little long. So this is the big one of these 4. Commit to knowing yourself and your body. So I want to ask you right now if you've ever had an experience of feeling fear of something at some point in your life, and now it no longer scares you. So for example, I recently had my 15-year-old niece visiting me, and she got her driver's permit. And she asked if we could teach her how to drive a little bit. And she was really scared. Like, she was scared to go over like 40 miles an hour, even though we were on a highway road where the speed limit was 50. And I had to kind of like push her to go faster. She wanted to put it in cruise control, not actually be responsible for the speed. And I'm just curious, maybe that was you when you learned how to drive. I honestly, I don't even remember really learning how to drive at this point. I'm not even sure who taught me. But I'm sure, it scared us all a little bit. And hopefully now that no longer scares you. Why? Because you understand what the gas pedal does and how to work with it. You understand the brake pedal and what its use is for and how and when to use it. And you understand the steering wheel and the signals. And you've kind of memorized all of these things of how to operate a car. And you've driven a car long enough that you've kind of learned how to navigate the world in the car too, right? So it doesn't mean you're never afraid in the car, but hopefully, but mostly it doesn't scare you anymore. Mostly it's a freeing experience even. You have freedom and mobility when you get in a car to go places, right? And it's actually similar with your body. If you don't know how to operate your body because you don't know what a body is made of, it's going to feel scary. It's going to feel foreign and unknown, and you're not going to know what to do with this thing called pain. But if you commit to actually understanding and knowing yourself and what you're made out of, which includes your body, then it stops feeling scary. So this one for me, definitely a longer game. And I would encourage you to actually use all of the videos on this channel for step number 2, because I'm constantly trying to educate you about pain science and fascia science and the nervous system science and mind-body science, so you can learn about and know yourself and learn about your body. And number 3, confront your fears. Now, this is the part that is really unique to us because we each have pretty individual fears. So in being with your pain and getting curious about it and committing to getting to know yourself and your body, you can identify what it is you're actually afraid of. For example, when I, was afraid of the knee pain I might experience running, when I dig into that, what I was actually afraid of was losing my freedom. It felt metaphorical to me. I was afraid of getting trapped in this body and not being able to move in ways that I choose to, right? So if we dig into our fears, they're going to be personal to us. They're going to be different than what you maybe think at the outset. So when you first ask yourself, what are you afraid of? It's like, most people are like, well, I'm afraid of pain. Pain sucks. Pain, it doesn't feel good. What else is there? But I promise you, if you dig into that, there's a fear under that, and then maybe a fear under that, and then maybe a fear under that. And if you get to the bottom of it, then you can discover what you're really afraid of. So I filmed a video specifically on fear and really identifying your fears and following them all the way to the bottom. So if that's interesting to you, maybe check the description box below. We'll link to it for you. So in order to actually lose my fear of pain, I had to confront my fear of running, and that knee pain would stop me from running. But what metaphorically this meant for me was I had to confront my fear of not being a free human being. And while doing that, I had to really install and instill a belief in my nervous system, in my mind and body, that I believed I could be a free being, that I believed I could run again, I could hike again, I could do what I wanted to do again. And I used what I had learned about my body to empower me and to be with the fear and not trying to conquer it or overcome it, right? To acknowledge the fear, but then choose a different action than these two. So I'm choosing the action of confronting the fear and cultivating other superpowers like courage and fortitude, or even self-compassion or empowerment. You might consider a superpower. If you simply try to conquer it or shrink your world, you're not really developing superpowers that are going to help you feel, like a more expansive, conscious, free human being. So what this is going to look like for you is unique to you. It might mean confronting a fear of falling, which might under it be a fear of losing control, right? So that's pretty common for people who are afraid of heights. And maybe for some reason you would want to go face that fear by rock climbing or something like that. But the faster we can actually face those fears once we've acknowledged them, we lose our fear of it. But in particular, this video is about a fear of pain. So if you're trying to heal an injury or a pain, then it means no longer doing either of these, and instead doing first these two. And then once you get to know your body and you understand pain science, you understand why you're in pain and what to do about it, you need to go, do those things, but then go face your fear of not being able to do whatever it is you're supposed to do again by doing it. And if pain shows up, don't take one of these actions, do this again instead. And so number 4 is pretty simple. You're just going to repeat these as many times as necessary. So when I healed my knees, I'm running again and my knee still hurts. And so I had to be with the pain, commit to knowing and understanding my body, or use what I'd learned about my body up to that point to really tell myself, like my self-talk became, you can run again. There's nothing structurally wrong with you. You're giving your body what it needs. You can do this. Like, this is gonna work. And then, confronting that fear by running again and seeing if I was still in pain the next time. And it took 3 or 4 times of actually running again and feeling quite a bit of knee pain for me to actually lose the pain. And when I lost the pain that summer in 2011, I lost my fear of pain. I lost my fear of my pain, your pain, and pain in general. And it's honestly like that fear has just vanished for me. I have other fears, so I'm not an advocate of conquering fear in your life. I'm an advocate of actually letting it trigger you into an empowered action of some kind. Fears often tell us what we value, and we get protective of what we value, but a lot of the time we're not associating our values with physical pain or our values to our fear of pain. But I would recommend that you actually look at your values, get to know yourself, right? Get to know your body. So to that end, again, this channel is full of videos that will help you understand your body, understand fascia, understand pain. So if you're currently in pain, you can you can search for pain-specific blog posts and videos like back pain or knee pain or plantar fasciitis, and learn about those particular issues that are currently happening in your body. You can learn generally about your anatomy. So, if I were starting all over right now, what I'd have to do is get to know my psychology, get to know my fears, get to know my anatomy, get to know fascia, my fascia, not just fascia, but my fascia, but also fascia in general. Like, what should fascia feel like, and what does mine feel like, and how does that compare, and then what are the steps I need to, go through to get from unhealthy fascia, or where I'm at right now, to healthy fascia. So obviously we have tons of videos like that on this channel. So I hope that this channel and this blog can be a resource for you to help you lose your fear of pain. And just remember, it's a process of, doing these 3 things over and over and over. And eventually, I promise, if you commit to this and continue to do this, if you commit to this, number 2, and you continue to do this, you will lose your fear of pain. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please comment below this video with your thoughts on this topic of losing fear of pain. And I'm definitely going to come into the comments and talk to you. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm super committed to this. So if you have any questions at all for me about losing your fear of pain, then post them in the comments section below. I'll come talk to you for sure. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching. If you feel like someone else can benefit from this, imagine a world where people stopped being afraid of pain. So if you feel like other people could benefit, maybe share this one. I don't often ask you guys to share videos, but every once in a while when I'm really passionate about something I do, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.